We're here with Emmitt Sherlock. Emmitt, thank you very much for coming in.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You're in your element here in the podcast room, right?
Yeah, I've done a couple of them.
People were talking at Assembly all day today that this is one of the most highly anticipated episodes we've done so far. What do you think about that?
I mean, I guess so. I like to think of myself having an interesting character, you know.
You do.
I do.
I chose you to come on not only because you're an advisee of mine,
Yeah.
but because I feel like you have a lot of interests outside of just wrestling. We'll talk a little bit about wrestling today, but just in general, you like a lot of different things.
Yeah.
I remember one advisory, maybe last year, you had your computer out, you were doing some graphic work, you had your phone right here, you had a camera around your neck,
Yeah.
right? You just have a lot of different things that you're into.
Yeah. So I've always been I like to think of myself as creative, and so first I I had a podcast of, wrestling. I was interviewing Olympic champions, national champions, guys with 100,000 followers. So that was cool, and that was during COVID. And then I kind of got away from that. I stopped doing that because you probably know it takes a lot of work, especially for me when I was doing it when I was 13, 14. So that was a lot of work for me. And then I did photography my freshman year. I still do advanced photography this year, but saw that we got Photoshop and stuff, and then I started playing around with that, and now I run a side hustle, and I make graphics for athletes, commitment graphics, and so I've made, I'm not gonna say how much money I made, but I've made a good money that I can buy some stuff that I want.
I like that.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about your graphic work and kind of what that's like for you.
Yeah, so it's fun. So that's how I first started. How I first started to grow my brand is I would go the top 100 rankings on ESPN for basketball and football, and what I would say is hey, my name's Emmitt. I do a graphic work. If I know you'll be needing in the field of getting graphics soon, people like to post their top 5 schools when they actually commit. And so I started throwing my name out there, and then I would send them some of my work that I've done, and then I just started creating a bunch of work that I can just send them. And so basically and then now I have people that's come to me. So when people commit to a school, they want to post something on Instagram saying, blessed to announce I'm committing to wherever, and then I'll either make them a graphic with them on it, with their background of school, different elements and just stuff that's something cool,
So you find out where different players and athletes are committing, and then you reach out to them on your own and say, hey, here's my portfolio. Take a look at some of the work I've done in the past.
So if I see, so I'll go, basically, like I said, I go in the top 100 and I see they have 20 offers, and then for example, I was all right, then I can make something displaying all them offers. I've done stuff I've done cool stuff for example, I did somebody, he had 20 offers, and I did him in the middle of a Monopoly board, and I had a bunch of Monopoly cards, the value when you buy a place, right? Mm-hmm. So I had a card for Ohio State, had a card for that. I've done Pokemon cards with different schools. I've done different I try to be as creative and unique as possible, and not just having the schools there.
I like that. So you have a bunch of different backgrounds that you work with, and this is all in Photoshop. Yeah. How long does it usually take you? So if you see an athlete who's committed somewhere, and you're sitting down to work on it, what's that process like?
Okay, so a committed post. So I obviously have not I say, I don't like to have templates because I want to create something new for every guy, which I've seen other guys do, other companies do, and that's one thing I don't want to do is create the same design for another guy. So I would say coming up with the design is probably the hardest part, right? So that probably takes 30 minutes scrolling on Instagram, Pinterest or whatever online, just trying to find different stuff, and then the actual doing it probably takes an hour. So, not really an hour. It's probably I would say an hour in total, and then that's about it.
How'd you get involved with Photoshop? Because I know that Photoshop takes a while to learn. Did you take a class with that, or you just learn that on your own?
To be honest, on my own. So we did it we got it during photography, and I saw that. And I just went in and played with it. I learned how to cut the background of people, and then I learned how. The only thing I ever looked up was how do you put a photo in Photoshop. Other than that, it's all just it's pretty once you get it down, you get it down, and then it's more you just finding stuff to use,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I always found the commitment posts I don't know. It's interesting
it's
because
new. A lot of people. I don't know. Was that thing back when you were committing to college? Like,
well, it was a Facebook status.
Yeah.
You know, people would say, "I'm proud to announce my commitment here," but I don't know. I feel like it's one of those things that it's kind of a fad. Everyone's doing it.
Everybody's doing it now.
So if you don't post, it's like, well, you know, you committed somewhere, you didn't tell anyone
you
about
didn't
it. You didn't make a post. Mm-hmm. So you're really tapping into something important that people want, you know, because I see that all the time on Instagram.
Yeah, and the cool thing is there's commitments at all different levels. There's D1 athlete, D2 athlete, NIA, like there's everything. There's so many people that need it, which makes it good for me because, like, you know, I'm doing somebody going to Baltimore City Community College, and I'm doing a guy committing to Ohio State. There's a big field that I'm doing, so it's good for me. You know, it's a lot of business.
Would you ever do seniors who are, you know, who get into a college and they want to make a post, or is it more?
I haven't done that. That would be like getting into some regular college, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what kind of like things I would put on it. You know, I guess you just put like them in like maybe a tie and a suit and maybe the background.
Yeah, what if they ace their SATs, they get into a really good college, you could get a picture of them in the classroom.
If they ace their SAT, they definitely deserve a graphic. So
yeah, that could be cool. And you also do some video work as well, right?
So I do so like with the graphics, I do it's like a laser outline. So how I do it, so it'll outline the laser, slowly laser, and then like have music in the background, and right when the beat drops, it like zoom into the graphic, and then have like an explosion. Like I do like a little video too for like that stuff too.
So you're expanding this whole enterprise.
And I'm always looking to see like what other people are doing, what other pages, because there's guys obviously like I'm only got like 1,000 followers, and I've only done probably like 250 clients, but there's guys with like 100,000 followers that are doing it. So I'm still trying to continue to grow and be as, you know, big as them.
So you've got some competitors out there you keep an eye on.
There's competitors. There's some guys I'm always looking at, because there's some guys that are really good, and so and there's a difference. Like there's what I've been trying to look at. There's people that do it like art now. They've been trying to make it more like artistic when they do it. So I don't know. I'm trying to try to explore that.
So you're constantly learning on Photoshop. Yeah. Are there any other tools or platforms you use on the internet that you work with, or mostly Photoshop?
Photoshop creates the graphics. Adobe After Effects is the little laser thing, and then Premiere Pro is just like the video editing, and that's when I put like the music and like overlays and stuff. That's Premiere. So graphics is Photoshop. The little outline video is After Effects, and then Premiere Pro is where you put it all together.
I like that. So say it's a Saturday, you've got nothing on the schedule, you've got a whole free day, you have no homework.
Yeah.
You know, it's just Emmitt time. What does that day look like for you?
So if it's Saturday?
Yeah, say like this upcoming Saturday, you've got nothing on.
Dance. But so regular Saturday, what I would probably do is I obviously have one type of workout. I always do one type of workout for wrestling. So usually it'd be a practice, right? So whether that's at 10 o'clock or if it's usually on the weekends I have either a 10 o'clock practice or I have a 6:30 night practice. So depending on what day it is, I have either one. But I wake up. If I don't practice somewhere, I'll wake up probably pretty late, like 11 o'clock, and then if it's like prime season, like when I was doing graphics during a signing day weekend, I was probably doing 8 different people during that day, and so I would spend like 8. I was doing like just like a work day, 8 hours. You know, I did 8 people, and I made, you know, a good amount of money, so it's good for me.
Wow. So when you're working on the graphics, do you completely get in the zone? Like the time passes very quickly.
So this is what I do. I invested in some of my money, and I have 2 monitors, and then I have my computer. On the left one, I have some type of either like a Twitch stream or a YouTube video, and that's how I do it. So I have the video up, and then I have my main display doing my work.
The video of what are you watching?
I'll watch anything, either just like some YouTube video, some guy like just something that I can like watch. I'm not gonna sit there for 8 hours and just do. So I have to have some type either I could be like watching a football game or something.
Okay.
So I got to keep my mind not just on. I don't know if I could do that.
You're multitasking.
Yeah.
I like that. I think that's important. You know, it's like sometimes in school, you know, you say like it's very hard to sit in a classroom all day long. It's like, you know, when you first got to Gilman, I was thinking about that with you because you've got all these different things on your mind. It's like it's got to be hard to sit down and focus.
It is hard. That's one of my things. I'm kind of I would say I'm bouncy, you know.
You're balanced. Yeah, you've got a lot of different things on your mind.
Yeah.
I think it's a skill to be able to watch the football screen or the Twitch or whatever you have on this side and then work on your graphic here. Yeah. look on Instagram too. I think that's important in the world.
Well, I think it's for me, my like style of learning. I think I would fall asleep if I was just doing graphics. That's the thing. Kind of like school. Like I don't want to just sit. I can't sit there and do the same thing for 30 minutes. It has to be like. That's why I like more like group projects and stuff like that, and more. That's like my style of learning. Not because I don't want to fall. Usually if I just do something for 30 minutes, I'm gonna fall asleep. That's just me. So.
Have there been any classes that you've taken here at Gilman that really tapped into that, multitasking ability that you have?
Yeah, obviously photography is cool, and especially this year because we're allowed to use more. So last year, first year was more like photojournalism, so it's more like no like editing. It's more just like, like I go to do a football game, I shoot these pictures and I get them to whoever, like if whoever needs them right away. And this year it's more like your own decision, so being creative. So you can edit colors more. You can make it more creative than photojournalism, because you want photojournalism, you're keeping the colors the same. You're editing and it's pretty natural, right? More like what you see in the eye. And then this year's more like outside that field.
So when you're doing creative shots, are you usually going to games and doing athletic pieces, or do you do outside of the sports realm?
We do different stuff for photography. Like, so like for example, what we did one time what we just did last was we went to the old Gilman campus, and we kind of like compared it to now. And what we did is we took elements from this campus to that campus, so we photoshopped the collages all together and make some type of artwork. What I did, like, I had a real sky in there with the old photo, like a black and white photo from the archives. We put a new sky in there. Then we had like students on the steps from now. We photoshopped and put on steps from the old. Basically, we just mixed stuff new from old, and we made 3 different like versions of it. It was pretty cool.
And is Mr. Ruark your teacher?
Mr. Ruark was last year. This one is Miss Sachs.
Miss Sachs. Okay. Yeah. What are the differences between the classes?
Differences. Well, Mr. Ruark is he's a really good photographer, and he knows what to look for, and so he's more original, but he's really good at it. And Miss Sachs is she's always trying to something new. She's like, could you do this? Could you do that? And like I said, photojournalism is more natural, and learning actually like the aspects of photography, like lines of thirds. It's like different rules for photography, and he was teaching us that. And then now, since we got that base down, then Miss Sachs is like even stepping it up a little more. I guess.
I like that. Is it is it competitive at all between you and your classmates in terms of the photos you're taking and the work that you're producing?
I mean, you wouldn't say it's competitive, but it's like we always once we're done an assignment, we always show. We have a class, like once we're done with whatever our project was for the week or 2 weeks, is we like show them all on the board, and like we like go through everybody's guys, and then we're like, it's not a competition, but it's not a competition, but it's like you want to see how good you did this week,
Yeah, you've always got to be looking at other people like you do with the commitment pieces and saying, like, what are they doing? How do I get an edge on them?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right, so Emmitt, you're really into sports. You're into wrestling. I want to talk about wrestling, but the state of Gilman sports and athletics here, what's your take?
I mean, well, one thing I like about Gilman is that we're getting athletes that are also smart, so that's also a good thing. But the state of athletics, let's see. I mean, we're good. Okay, we're okay. First off, we started wrestling. We've improved significantly in the last 5 years. Football, we got a new we got a new coach, so I can't really judge that until we give him a couple more years. Basketball, we're pretty consistent. Last year, not this year, but last year we're pretty good. That squad was good. Tennis, we're really good. We're really good at tennis, squash, volleyball. What's his name? Coach Diego. Coach, I've heard from Coach Holmes. Coach Diego does a really good job, because what they say is like volleyball. It's like really a test of what coaching's better, because not many people play. Like volleyball in middle school and stuff. So it's kind of like a test of who can do better coaching once they get guys in. So I've heard Coach Diego's done a really good job with that. I don't know. I think we're doing pretty good. We obviously could be a little better at some sports. Like people obviously want our football teams to be really good, and people want basketball teams to be good. But because those are the main attraction. But I think we'll be all right.
We're right there. We're right in the running.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've good racket sports, that's for sure.
We do have good racket sports.
Coaching the JV squash team this year, and
you are?
Some of those guys are varsity players. We just have too many of them.
Are you like in the country good for varsity squash? I mean.
Yeah. They're ranked every year. They go to nationals. Tennis for sure. So, yeah, I agree with you. Tell me about wrestling here at Gilman.
Gilman. So I guess we can start like why I went to Gilman for wrestling. So I lived in Georgia, and I'm like a military family. So we live in Georgia, and we knew some wrestler from South Carolina, and he knew one of the assistant coaches at Gilman named Kramer. And he was like, when we knew we were moving to Maryland, that was the only coach we knew. Cause we were just trying to find a club that we could practice when we, got up here. And then we reached out to Kramer, and he's like, all right, coach at Gilman. I was like, okay. And that's the only school we ever applied to. We flew up here, and we saw the campus, and then we applied, and we got in. So that was the only school we ever applied to. So that's how I started here, right? And then we met Coach Holmes, and Coach Holmes is a really good wrestler. He was a 2-time national prep champ. He was, I think he was a 3-time state champ. He could have went to any college he wanted to for wrestling, but he chose lacrosse, and I don't blame him. I don't know, like, I'm not trying to say anything about lacrosse, but I know wrestling is brutal on injuries and wrestling like your knees and stuff. So to play lacrosse is still pretty cool. So I don't blame him. But for Gilman wrestling, we have improved a lot since the last 5 years. I don't know if you ever saw, if you saw, we have not won we haven't won the Gilman Doles in it was 40 years. We won that my freshman year. We've beat McDonough in the last 2 years. We had a 20-year streak of not beating them. We had me and my brother were our first 2 state champs in 18 years this year. But yeah, we've done, and even just not me and my brother, our team has gotten a lot better. We have guys like John Jerkovich, Gabe Smith, Zach Laurie, and they were all top 4 placers here. And also I want to mention Coach Holmes done a good job of just kind of like Coach Daigle, building the guys that haven't wrestled. So he took Carson Minga, who wrestled a little bit in middle school, not really though, and he was second at states his junior year and third this year, and that's crazy how he can turn a guy who's not wrestling before high school to a state placer.
So what does that take for a coach to take a wrestler who hasn't had much experience and make them pretty good, pretty solid?
So I would say first obviously the coaching, right, and then second surrounding him with guys with a good program, right? So if you're around a bunch of people that are good, you're gonna get good. Mm-hmm. And so Mingo was around me, my brother, and all those guys I just mentioned, and that's brought him up. And that's one thing we talk about. And then one thing Coach Holmes preaches a lot is you're only good as your worst link, is what he says. So even if you never started on varsity, it still matters, right? You're still in that room. You're the practice partner for the varsity guy. So it's everybody matters, and if everybody's on one agreement, everybody's gonna get better.
Yeah, iron sharpens iron is a good phrase. If you're practicing every day against really good players, you're gonna get better yourself.
Yeah.
So you've got a brother who's a year older than you. He's probably your main competitor when you're practicing.
Yeah.
What's it like growing up in a family with a brother like that who every single day you're probably wrestling him, getting better yourself?
Yeah. So there was one growing up, we never practiced. We couldn't practice each other. We would fight. So it wasn't really till 13 or 12, 13 that we could start practicing. We would still fight maybe once every month, but now we can. Now in this year we were probably main practice partners once Gabe got hurt, and so Tyson was my main practice partner, and we didn't fight one time, so that was good. And so we've kind of just made agreement that us working together is going to be the best for us. Even though now I'm getting a little big, but this year was it was awesome working with him. It's a clash of kind of styles because he's more of a defensive wrestler and I'm more of a offensive guy. So it was it was a learning experience for both of us, and it made us better.
Yeah, so you feel like that matchup really makes you better when you go against other schools.
Yeah, so he brings a style that's really unique, and which makes him pretty good. He's more of a like I said, he's a defensive guy. He's really good at defending when they attack, and I'm good when I attack. So I learned how to, if I attack and he defends, I still learn how to I'll counter that. Mm-hmm. So him working with him has made me better.
Wrestling practice has got to be the most difficult, I think, of any sport, right?
Yeah, so it's obviously people say wrestling's if people that don't know wrestling, wrestling's not that hard, you'll do for 6 minutes, but there's 6 minutes you're working the whole 6 minutes of just a sprint. So basically a sprint for 6 minutes, and then if it goes to overtime, it could be 9 minutes. So and to do that for 2 hours during a practice is pretty hard. So we start. I would say I can walk you down what a practice looks like. It's 15 minutes of warming up, so jogging. But then we also do gymnastics stuff. So we'll do cartwheels, we'll do cartwheel into a backflip, we'll do for handsprings, we do front rolls, just stuff to get our body loose. And that's just hard doing stuff like that. And then we're stretch, and then we're going to practice, which is like Coach Holmes, we do like 5 primary attacks, or our first attacks, and then 5 secondary attacks, and we're just wrestling and learning new. And then after that, after we do like our warm up, then Coach Holmes will like break down like tactics and like break down moves, I guess, and that he sees that we could get better on, and that's what we're doing. And then the last like 45 minutes is where it gets really hard. It's like live wrestling, so it's like a match basically. It's kind of like sparring basically, but like full intensity for like 30 minutes, and then last 15 minutes is just like sprints. Sprints, go back to live wrestling, back on the line, sprints. And then, Coach Holmes is a tough guy, so he's not scared to make it hard.
I like that. So you get done practice. You're probably exhausted. You just fought for your life for a good, 2 hours or however long practice is. In this time, you're cutting weight.
Yeah,
right? You've got to keep your weight. And I want to talk about that a little bit, but it doesn't sound that fun, to me.
No, it doesn't.
So what makes it worth it for you as a wrestler?
You gotta love competition, and that's the number one thing about it is wrestling. It's me versus you, So that excites for me. That excites me just but so that excites me just the competition, the one-on-one. But yeah, it definitely during the weight cutting is definitely the hardest part of the sport for sure. To say I'm 6 pounds over, and then I still have to basically, what you said, survive for my life for 2 hours is, it's kind of hard when you haven't ate all day and you still got 6 more pounds to go. It's like, it's not a fun experience. And not to mention the room is, kind of hot. It's really hot because like in the Gilman room, it's right above the pool, and so the steam rises and it goes in the wrestling room, and so it's hot.
Do you ever feel lightheaded?
I mean, yeah, but I've gotten used to it. So I used to live in Georgia, and we used to work down old I don't know what you would call it, like a barn, not a barn, but like old steel buildings with just no AC, and we're in the middle of summer practicing, so I kind of used to the heat.
So you love the grind. You love the practice of, this is going to suck for a certain number of weeks, but then I get to compete and beat somebody, and that makes it all worth it. That's
the result of. So you put in the hard time, but the result feels good. If knowing that you're more physically sound than this guy is a good feeling,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So the weight thing has always perplexed me a little bit. I mean, I have some experience with that. I didn't wrestle growing up, but I played football.
Yeah.
And I was always the biggest kid on the team.
Yeah.
So I had to cut weight. I had to chew gum and spit, before getting on the scale. I had to wear soccer cleats and cut my pads.
Yeah.
As like a 5th grader or 6th grader, So I know a little bit about what that's like, but can you explain to me, in wrestling, what the whole purpose of cutting weight is?
So the purpose of cutting weight is, well, I wish it wasn't like this, but everybody's cutting weight. So you don't want to be the guy who's wrestling. So I don't want to weigh 160 wrestling a guy who's cutting for 175. I want to be weighing 160 wrestling guys at 150. So what we do, but it's gotten better. So we do a test every year, like it's called your hydration test. So you basically pee in a cup and they test you're hydrated. Then they pinch your body fat and they tell you the lowest weight you can go that's healthy. So at least it's like kind of healthy. So we do that, so the way it works is basically how you're supposed to do it is you're supposed to water load. And so basically you want to drink a lot of water at the beginning. So we have a match on Friday. Monday, Tuesday, you want to be drinking a lot of water. Wednesday, you still drink a good amount of water. You cut it out. You start dialing it down. Thursday, maybe only 2 bottles of water. And then Friday, you don't eat until you weigh in. But it's basically you fill it up with water. Then the last couple of days, you're releasing it all. And a lot of the weight you're losing is water weight, especially during the season, because you don't really want to be losing fat. You want to lose fat at the beginning of the season, get your body trained, and then the last couple of pounds is just all water. Yeah.
So when you're working out in the off season, how important is cardio workout, like running versus weightlifting? Like what kind of training do you do kind of to prepare for the wrestling season?
So the best way of training, so you think of it, wrestling's, for me, I cannot wrestle for 4-6 minutes. It's kind of hard. It's more of for me, it's sprints, right? It's a 15-second sprint of staying good position, another 15-second sprint. And so a lot of interval training is good if you want to do stuff like outside of wrestling. But lifting is always good to get strong. And but the best way to train for wrestling is wrestling. So that's but like I know there's a guy named Ben Askren. He hated the treadmill, but he was a really good wrestler, and he couldn't run he could barely he didn't want to run for 2 miles on a treadmill. That was not his thing. But he was really good at wrestling, and the way he said the way to get better at wrestling is wrestling. So
yeah, I think that's true for a lot of sports. I mean, in college playing lacrosse, we did so much training of sprints all year long because when you do something in college, and you're used to this now because you wrestle all year round, but it's every single day, and there were so many days where we were running sprints and lifting, and that stuff's all important, but I felt like we were getting better as players, as a team, when we were just practicing lacrosse.
Yeah, because like if I'm lifting weights, I'm not going to learn how to defend a double leg attack. The way I do that is I wrestle. So I guess I think that statement's pretty true.
Now, do you have a favorite wrestling move, or do you vary it?
So I like to say I'm good on my feet. So like I don't like mat wrestling. I'm good at, but my best is on my feet. So just like any type of attacks that it's like a single leg, a double leg. I'm good at. I'm really quick is what I'm good at. So and I'm aggressive. So I like to be on my feet. And I like to push the pace and wear down on my opponent.
Love it. So how about like cross training, like other sports? Does that help you in wrestling at all? I know, for instance, wrestling is a good sport to play, one for toughness, to get in shape. A lot of face-off guys in lacrosse are previous wrestlers or wrestlers because they're low to the ground and they're trying to get the ball and they're good at ground balls. Do you do any other sports that help your wrestling?
So I played football all the way up to my 8th grade year, and I stopped. So I played it when I was like 6. I was always playing football, but I stopped. I didn't play my freshman year, and I haven't played since. But I do believe cross training is good. Like Coach Holmes is a kind of I would say is a good example of that. He's good at. He's good. I guarantee the stuff he's learned from wrestling made him good on the football field. That made him good on the lacrosse field. So I do believe in cross training, and I do think it's good. But no, I stopped playing in 8th grade. But I think playing other things is good for your mind too. So it's not like I know like people that wrestle is like for example Carson. I know he's it's good for his mind not to be wrestling all year long, and playing other sports is good for him. Stuff like that.
Yeah, I think competition just in general is good. Like I see guys playing chess at Gilman all the time, and it's like that's awesome because you're using your mind, but you're still doing a one-on-one competition against someone where you're practicing winning.
Winning's good.
Winning's good.
Yeah,
I like that. All right, so let's switch topics to just Gilman School in general. What do you like about just the daily life here at Gilman?
Well, obviously, I like the schedule. The 380 classes is cool. It's good. It's good that we have the 380 classes, then we have the time to do the work after. So if you do your schedule right, it limits time. Limits your your homework and studying. So I do like the schedule. And then I like the people. The people are really nice. And we have a lot of alums, so like people know, and then so that's cool that like there's people that's been in the same place that we are, and so that's kind of cool. And then coaches, a lot of coaches are alums too. So like Coach Holmes done the same thing. Even though he's not an alum, but he's done the same thing I've done. But it's cool that we can get close to teachers and they can like tell us like stuff that can help us. So I think the connections are one of the best things about Gilman.
Yeah, I think that's true. Some of the coaches and the teachers have been here for so long that they can help you and tell you what it was like when they were here and, how to get through difficult practices and classes and whatnot. So, yeah, I think that's true. Things Fall Apart, your book rec.
Yeah, so I could tell you about Things Fall Apart. I don't know how to pronounce the author.
Chinua Achebe,
yeah.
I think.
So I can tell you. So basically, right now, a book we're reading in English, and one thing we've been talking about. So we've basically been breaking down this guy's character. I'm pretty bad at pronouncing
Okonkwo,
right? Okonkwo. And so he's pretty strict in his way he raises his kids, and he's also. He's the ideal toxic masculinity is what we've been saying. Even though he does just a lot of stuff he does is bad. Like he'll beat his wife and stuff like that. It's obviously not good. But what we've been breaking down is what like masculinity traits are good, and like so like masculinity they say like you shouldn't be able, like men shouldn't show character, show feelings, stuff like that. They should abstain like some type of hardness. And we're basically been like debating on what like ideals of masculinity should like be taught for our next generation, and what stuff that, like back then we can leave behind, like stuff like not showing feelings and So back in the day, like 50 years ago, men were like more like I wouldn't say like I guess hard. Had a more hard. I guess I don't know the words to say it.
Like harder.
Yeah, hard. Like they like. Obviously, we want them like not showing feelings, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's
They're
true.
scared to show feelings, so that they don't want to be looked upon, like
Yeah, as weak.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think it's so tough because this is such an important conversation. Because in sports sometimes, and I think this is complex because in sports, like in wrestling, like if you show weakness,
it's not good.
That's not good.
You don't want to show you're tired. That's like then the opponent's going to start picking the pace up.
You don't want, exactly. You don't want to put your hands on your knees or, you don't want to cry after the first round and that makes you excited, right?
Yeah.
As
when
the
I see
opponent.
that, it's like you see blood in the water, right? Basically,
Exactly.
You're a shark and you see some guy huffing and puffing and breathing. It's like, all right, time to go.
Right. But I think there are other cases in life where it's like things are getting really hard mentally for you,
it's good to take a break.
It's good to take a break, or it's good to tell people like, hey, I'm struggling with this. I'm not doing well, right?
Yeah.
That's a good time to show that you're not doing.
So what we've been saying, is like, I think you should be able to show emotions. You should show emotions, but we also want to, keep hard work in there. Like that's one thing, you should keep the next generation of teaching people how to, persevere, how to keep working hard and moving past things, but not be scared to take a break when needed or a mental break or whatever, and not scared to reach out to people.
Yeah, I think that's true. There's so many good things about like masculinity in general. It's a broad term, but courage and being strong.
Yeah,
it's all good.
Good.
But there's also, I think, benefit to showing vulnerability, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's interesting. Those are good conversations.
Yeah, that's what we've been talking about the last 3 classes actually. So I just thought that's a good topic to talk about.
Yeah. So how about some of the male figures in your life who you look up to? I mean, we talked about Coach Holmes a little bit, but when you think about men at Gilman in your life, like what are some of those qualities that you really admire in an adult man?
An adult man. So what qualities do I? Let's see. I got to think about this. So obviously, like I said, hard work is one. Qualities. We got, the ability to just, so it's hard. Like, I don't know. Like, I know the guys I look up to, and like, I don't really know like the words like to say. Like, I know what like a good man looks like.
Yeah. I think it makes sense to your point about like what qualities of masculinity we want the next generation to have are probably the ones that are in the world today that are good.
Exactly.
Like hard work and grit and courage.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's hard to explain.
You just kind of
know.
You know it when you see it, right?
You know what's wrong. You know it's right. It's like, I guess I don't know.
Yeah. I always think of when I think of Things Fall Apart. So I read it. I think when I was in your
my grade.
Yeah, in your grade, sophomore year. I had a really good teacher who taught me this book, but I don't really remember everything that happens in the book. I remember Okonkwo.
Yeah.
I remember the ending. I think
I'm not the ending yet, so don't tell me. I'm like 7 chapters in, so
okay.
It's been pretty good.
You're liking it though.
I'm liking it.
I remember this book because we were talking about competition. We were talking about chess. We were talking about wrestling, and in college, our dining hall was right next to the ping pong table. So there's a ping pong table. There's a pool table. There's what's the game with the soccer figures?
Foosball.
Foosball.
Yeah.
So we had all that right in front of the dining hall. So we would always, myself and my roommates would always play. And ping pong was my favorite game to play with my roommate Joey, who was a hockey player. And whenever we'd play ping pong, we'd get
tense.
It would get intense.
Yeah.
And people would walk by being like, what is wrong with these guys? They're always playing. And I would always have a lead on Joey. And he was very consistent. He'd come back.
Yeah.
It'd be like 9-2, kind of like the lacrosse game yesterday.
Yeah.
It's like 9-2, 8-2. He starts coming back. And as soon as he smelt blood in the water with me, he'd say, "Things fall apart." Yeah. Chinua Achebe. He'd say it like that. And it'd rattle me, man. It would get in my head a little bit.
Yeah.
But that's exactly what we're talking about, is like when you have a lead, you've got to step on it.
Yeah. I like the term blood in the water. That's how a lot of wrestling coaches use that.
Yeah.
It's like if you see it, you got to go after it,
Yeah. my dad coached me in lacrosse growing up. He used to say, put the nails in the coffin.
Yeah, nails in the coffin, that's one.
That's another one.
Yeah.
But I think it's a good book because not only does it speak to what you're doing here at Gilman, you know, trying to become a better man, but also some of the things that you're doing in your sports and in wrestling, right? Things fall apart. Like, I don't remember exactly what the book is all about yet, but you'll probably get to those conversations at the end.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, Emmitt. Well, anything else that you want to cover today on our podcast?
I think you covered most of me. Wrestling, my creative skills, and then we talked about things fall apart. So, I think
All right, man. Well, thank you very much for coming in. It was a fun time, and we'll see you in advisory.
Yep. Thanks for the talk.